So, how many of you can relate to this mom? She said, I not only have to manage the emotional temperature of the home, but my own internal temperature fluctuations. So, I took a chance and I tried the Cozy Earth bamboo sheets and pajamas. Total game changer for me. No more night sweats, much deeper sleep. I wake up feeling refreshed. We love hearing that because that's our experience with Cozy Earth. Incredibly breathable, heavenly soft, cooling, and great quality. Cozy Earth gives you a 10-year warranty and 100 nights of hassle-free returns on bedding. During the hot summer, stay cool all day and night with Cozy Earth temperature-regulating bamboo shorts. I love these shorts. Tees, PJs, sheets, and their new beach towels. Cozy Earth is made from viscose from bamboo, breathable, soft, and built for summer. So head to CozyEarth.com. Use my code CALM for an exclusive 20% off. CozyEarth.com. Use code CALM for 20% off. And please tell Cozy Earth the Calm Guy sent you. So Casey and I were talking about his other job, which requires a team working together in a fast-paced environment with lots of moving parts and details to manage. And I blurted out, you guys should use Skylight Calendar because then you'd have all the details laid out visually, which with each employee's tasks highlighted in different colors. You won't miss anything. And that's why I keep hearing from moms and dads who use Skylight Calendar to reduce the stress and the missed ball games. Skylight is especially helpful with our kids. Visually seeing the schedule can kind of help with that, reduce anxiety, and give them a sense of control. You can try Skylight for 4 months, and if you're not 100% thrilled, you can return it for a full refund, no questions asked. Families are better when they're working together. Right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to myskylight.com/parenting. Go to myskylight.com/parenting for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's myskylight.com/parenting. So we all want to enjoy the relaxed summer vibe, but we also want to keep our kids' brains active and learning this summer. So use IXL's award-winning learning platform to build your child's confidence this summer. Choose one topic your kids are curious about and one in which they struggle. Over the summer, let your kids play the interactive games IXL uses to learn new facts and concepts without the pressure of the school year. Whether your child is tackling some new math skills or reading at a higher level, IXL meets them where they are and lets them move at their own pace. IXL instantly grades work and explains mistakes so you don't have to because our kids don't like being corrected. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. Calm Parenting Podcast listeners get an exclusive 20% off an IXL membership when you sign up today at IXL.com/Kirk. Visit IXL.com/Kirk to get the most effective learning program at the best price.
Do you have a child who must touch the hot stove, resists what you want first, refuses to do chores or anything the easier way, who is not immediately obedient, doesn't respond to consequences, appears self-centered, won't show math work, does the bare minimum to get by, won't push through when things get hard? Good. I want to show you how to work with these traits instead of fighting them all the time so you can actually enjoy your kids and family life. So that is what we're going to discuss on today's episode of the Calm Parenting Podcast. So welcome, this is Kirk Martin, founder of Celebrate Calm, and you can find us in our summer sale at celebratecalm.com. All right, I'm going to give you 10 insights that you must really internalize and know and really accept, I think, about your strong-willed child if you want to stop all the power struggles and just enjoy them. So number one, this is a hard one. Your strong-willed child is never, ever, 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 ever going to do things your way or the way you want them done. I've discussed this all through our programs, all through the podcast. It's just the way it is. They will do things, just not the way you want them done. And you need to get over your control issues. Your strong-willed child is not going to be immediately obedient. It is a horrible expectation anyway. It's not rooted in human nature. And they are always going to push back at first. It's part of who they are. So don't project out and just label them as defiant. They are looking for space and ownership. By the way, This immediate obedience thing, I've done podcasts on this. It is a horrible expectation to put on yourself as a parent. Because if your child doesn't listen to you the first time, well, then you're doing something wrong. You're not disciplining them well. You have a defiant child and you're failing as a parent. And that's what all the parents of compliant children say because you don't look with compliant kids, you don't even have to say anything. You just look at them and they just do the right thing. And it is way too much pressure for you and for your kids, and it is unrealistic. Well, does this mean that you let kids get away with things and not listening to you? Of course not. It means you use different approaches with them, just like we use different approaches with each other as adults. But Mrs. Calm is an extremely sensitive person while our son Casey is a general who marches instead of walks. He's very direct. So I use a very different tone and approach when speaking with each of them. We all do this daily in our interactions with other people at work, at the grocery store, with neighbors. We choose the approach that works best. Same thing with strong willed kids. Look, you don't give strong-willed kids control of your home. You give them ownership of their choices within your large boundaries, knowing they need to touch the hot stove because it's part of their learning process. You must give these kids a large box, so to speak, to live in with very clear expectations and boundaries, but plenty of space to do things differently than you would do them. I'm going to do a whole podcast on ownership coming up at the beginning of August. I think I have it planned. So, shouldn't kids just know to listen and take no for an answer? Look, I have changed my answer on this over the years. I used to say, well, yes, but now I say, no, no, they really shouldn't. It would be easier for them and easier for us if they did, but they don't care about the easy path, and we need to embrace that. Your kids have been this way since they came out of the womb, and you've tried all the tricks and consequences you can think of for the past 4 or 9 or 17 years, and it hasn't worked. Stop trying to change their very nature and work with it instead. That's not giving in as a parent, that's using wisdom. Continuing to fight their nature just makes you rigid and stupid. I'm I'm not kidding. It does. It's just dumb. So stop it. So number 2, and you know I don't do blame or guilt, but some people it's like, "Well, I'm just gonna try again." I'm like, "Why? It hasn't worked for the last 6 years. Are you looking for some magic formula?" Embrace their nature, work with it. Number 2, your strong-willed child will choose the harder path. They will make choices that you think are kind of dumb, and some of them are, right? But it would be so much easier if they just did it the right way, but they have to touch the hot stove. It's a necessary part of their learning process, and I really encourage you to wrestle with this. Why have we determined that the easier path is the best path for all kids? Because it's not. It's easier for us, and it would be easier for them to just take the traditional path. But they want to do it the hard way. They don't want to be like others. They want to find new paths and ways of doing things. Instead of fighting that, switch the narrative in your brain and switch the words you use. Try this sometime. I admire the fact that you're willing to do things the hard way rather than take the easy way. It shows me that you like a challenge, that when you have a goal, you are incredibly focused and persistent and won't give up. And even when the consequences are harsh, you forge on because you value your independence and desire to do things differently. How would that change how your child sees himself or herself and how you see them? There is nothing that I just said that is not true. Now, I know there's always a balance to things, but all of that is just as true as, you know what, you're so difficult. Why do you have to make things so hard? The truer statement we should admit is, my child isn't difficult. I am. I'm the one who insists that there's only one way, my way. Their way makes me uncomfortable, and that's why I try to fix or change it or them. And it's also because you love your kids. You want them to be happy and successful. I get that. It's just that they are going to achieve that in a way that looks very different. So I get on board that train. By the way, have you noticed this was not in my plan? Your kids will often choose sports and activities that are not your sport. Why? Because they want to own it. So when they are successful, it's not because mom or dad lectured them and showed them exactly how to do that. It's really interesting how they do that, isn't it? Number three, consequences and punishment do not work or motivate these kids. So stop using that as your first response. They simply don't care. Your my way or the highway tough guy approach, which is what I was raised under and tried first, will never work unless your mission is to destroy your relationship with your child. So your child may fear you, but he or she won't respect you. It hasn't worked for the first how many ever years of your child's life. So what makes you think it's going to work next time? It won't. So stop it. I showed in detail why consequences don't work in the June 29th episode. Discipline without yelling or giving in, 3 questions you must ask. So look that one up. Number 4, your strong-willed child will almost always resist what you want first before they own it themselves. It's built into their system, it's built into mine, and it's not a bad thing. It's actually really healthy and good in the long run because they want to have ownership of their choices and lives. They don't want to believe things because mommy or daddy or a teacher told them or made them. They want to wrestle with ideas, push back and argue, try different angles, and touch the hot stove until they believe it and internalize it and know it on their own. Again, it would be easier if your kids just didn't believe what you said without pushing back. But this way, they own it themselves and will own it for the rest of their lives. Respect that. Learn to expect it and work with it. You could even verbalize sometime. I respect the fact that you think for yourself, that you challenge yourself with and wrestle with these ideas inside, that you just don't believe everything everyone tells you. That's actually a really great quality to have. Again, all of those words are very true. And then you can mutter inside, but please, dear God, just one time, listen to me without resisting. I get that. I'll cover this in upcoming podcasts in more detail, but for now, know that you must draw and lead these kids. You can't push them and stand over them, they'll resist every time. Number 5, your strong willed child will appear to be self centered and selfish, but I guarantee it's nothing more than self preservation from an insecure, immature human being who feels different or who struggles with anxiety and is expending all of his or her emotional energy just trying to hold it together inside so that, see, when your kids are doing this, when humans are doing this, they literally can't look outward because they're so focused inwardly. I have friends who are recovering alcoholics who, during their addiction, were all about themselves. They appeared so selfish. Why? Because they had to spend all of their energy simply holding themselves together that they couldn't look outward. Your child's not a sociopath. He's just an overwhelmed kid. See your child that way, and you can reach into and change his or her heart. Otherwise, you'll just destroy their spirit and cause them to be angry. Number 6, your strong willed child will likely never do his or her chores around the house very well, if at all. You're going to have to wrestle with this one, but I believe it's true. Our son Casey was virtually useless as a child around the house. He was, but outside the home, he was extremely responsible and awesome for other people. And we raised him not to be a kid, but to be an amazing adult. And you're going to have to reconcile this within yourself. We decided that what we wanted was a kid who grew into a responsible, respectful adult on his own. On his own, he was fantastic. He was just awful for us. He worked a job from a young age. He helped neighbors all the time. He would do everything for everybody else, and they loved him. And they always were like, Casey is such a great kid, no matter where he went. And I know you're going to think, well, but if kids don't learn how to do their chores, they won't be able to keep a job. That's just not true. By the way, I'm going to save you some trouble. Your strong willed toddler will not pick up all of his toys by himself, even if he dumped 40,000 Legos on the floor. These kids are just not going to do it. So you're going to be on the floor grumbling, picking up even more toys than your child. It's just the way it works. And I don't want you to freak out thinking there's something wrong with your child or you're letting them get away with that. Right? It doesn't mean they're going to grow up to be lazy and irresponsible unless you do everything for them. I'm going to cover chores in more detail on the podcast 1 week from today. So listen to that one.
So I love getting messages that aren't about parenting. A mom said, "We are on a 3-week road trip this summer with 4 kids. Yes, we're playing your parenting programs because the kids think they're learning our secrets. But what has helped a ton is the Cure hydrating packets. The kids love, and occasionally fight over, the different flavors, and they are amazed we keep letting them have Cure. We didn't tell them they're healthy, so they think they're drinking something loaded with sugar when there's none in there. Cure has saved us tons of money because they're not begging us for sodas and sports drinks. Our strong-willed son, of course, will only drink the adult flavors. And they even take them into restaurants to mix in the water. That's awesome. Look, if you need to resupply on the road, you can now get Cure at Target. Or get 20% off at curehydration.com with code CALM. That's curehydration.com, code CALM. Okay, I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but I bet you've fallen into this trap. We've had the same knives for decades, and they aren't sharp. So every single day when I'm cutting up a salad, pineapple, or chicken, it's frustrating. So I finally went to wayfair.com. I read the reviews. I ordered 2 very sharp, everyday knives for less than $20. I know it sounds dumb, but those knives are providing so much joy on a daily basis. They slice through everything. And now I kick myself for not doing this years ago. Don't live with kitchen or home regrets. What do you need to upgrade in your home? I bet you can do it for way less than you think at Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home and get your space ready for less. That's WAYFAR.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
So mom emailed and said, "I have 2 picky eaters at home. One is 8 and the other is 38. With HUNGRYROOT, I can order meals tailored to the needs of our family without going down 14 different aisles. And HUNGRYROOT now knows our preferences, so they recommend meals I wouldn't have even thought of. My picky son now prepares red sauce tortellini with Italian sausage by himself 3 times per week. Everyone is happy. We're not out eating out as much. We're not stressed at mealtime. And my son is trying new things because he feels in control. You're going to love HUNGRYROOT as much as we do. For a limited time, get 40% off your first order. Plus, get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/calm and use code CALM. That's hungryroot.com/calm, code CALM to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. You're going to love HUNGRYROOT.
Number 7, your strong-willed child is going to make you really uncomfortable, and you should thank them for that. And this will probably cause disagreements with your spouse, so you have to really wrestle with these things together. Number 7, I just said that. And I'm not fixing it, I'm practicing imperfection. It's really bothering me right now, but I'm going to keep going. Your strong-willed child probably will not show his or her work when doing math problems because it's stupid. I just showed you my work by getting the answer right, duh. And your child's correct. So let him take it up with the teacher who will mark his or her grade down. And your child doesn't care about grades, so just let it go or just fight about it forever. When your child does care about something, they will do it. But right now, they don't. I actually covered this in a podcast. There's some really interesting reasons why they won't show their work and why we should actually encourage that. But that's for another time. Your strong-willed child may do the minimum work necessary just to skate by. Fine, I get that. So tell your child this. That's actually really smart. You don't care about grades right now, so you're preserving your energy for things you care about. I know that when you do care about something, oh, you're persistent, you're goal-oriented. I've seen it. Good thinking, son or daughter. I dare you to say that. But then you're going to have to go drink. So I don't want you to drink. but it's going to be very uncomfortable, but it's true. And you're going to have to reconcile yourself to the fact that your child simply doesn't care what you care about yet. You also have to reconcile yourself to the fact that all of your lecturing, prodding, bribing, and threatening has not changed or motivated your child at all. And instead, it simply hurts your relationship and destroys your trust. And I've done podcasts on that. I'm going to do one coming up on motivating your kids. But here's the thing, you're going to say, but shouldn't my child just, no, cut it out. This is about you and your anxiety about your child's future. Focus on controlling and changing yourself instead of your child. None of what you've done has worked before. It's not going to start to like magically happen now. All right, let's dive into another parenting myth. Well, kids have to learn to push through when things get hard because life is filled with doing things you don't want to do. True enough in one sense. But here's where the reasoning falls apart. You and I push through because we have a reason to. A need to support a family, an internal drive to accomplish something we care about. But I bet I can find 5 things in your life that you don't push through to accomplish, that you don't do your best at, that you don't apply yourself at. Whether it's diet or exercise or giving to others, praying, serving others, taking on more responsibility at work. Why? Because you don't care about it. When I worked in the corporate world, I wasn't great at managing the details of the business. But with Celebrate Calm, I know every single thing going on in my business. Why? Because I am motivated, because I have ownership. Your kids simply aren't going to push through and be motivated until they care about something. By the way, you'll notice they do this when they play video games. I'm not saying that's what I want them to do, but you will notice when they do certain activities, usually not for you, they will push through. Think about it. Why would you push through if you don't care about the mission or see no reason or purpose? So, in the programs, if you get the programs on the app, I show you how to get your child to push through when it gets tough. Okay, I want to save you a lot of money in family fights. Your strong-willed child is not going to practice. They're not going to practice their instrument or sports skills. And you're going to say, oh, but he could be so good, make the varsity team or get a scholarship or first chair violin if they just practiced. These kids won't practice yet. They just want to play the game or the concert because they don't care yet. They won't learn to read music. They will learn their instrument by watching YouTube videos, and it will drive you crazy. Just don't invest a lot of your own money and time in their activities. Let them pay for at least part of it and relax and enjoy. Look, I met this really great mom and dad at a live event. They were like, oh, our child won't practice and listen to his music teacher. But he writes and creates his own music. And I was like, that's amazing. And their reply was, well, but that's not really learning because he doesn't listen to the teacher. Can you hear how short-sighted we get as parents? That's crazy. This child is learning infinitely more by teaching himself, experimenting, creating his own music. Much rather have him doing that than following rote lessons. This is the way your kids are made. Independent, learning on their own, not listening to others, charging down their own path, creating their own music. And let's keep that as kind of a metaphor for their lives. They create their own music in life. It's just usually music you don't like, and you don't like how they create it. And that's your issue. So get accustomed to being uncomfortable and be willing to toss out all those parenting lies we've been told, right? Since childhood. Quick note for spouses. One of you is going to be too soft and give in. The other one is going to be a little bit too rigid and rough. So you balance each other out and you help each other. Ask your spouse this question sometimes, a side tip. What is one thing you want me to change or begin doing differently? And then just do it. Husbands listening, here's one. Stop barking out consequences that you can't keep. And then, because when you do that, it erodes your kids' trust in you because they don't believe you anymore. And then your wife is put in the position of actually having to enforce consequences that are unrealistic. You're welcome, wives. Okay, number 8. I only did that because I always pick on men because I'm a man. And if I tell mom, I'm so tough on moms on the podcast and moms almost always on Instagram. Yeah, that's true. I need to change. You're so hard on yourselves. But guys, I'll mention anything. I don't do that. And then your family's kind of laughing like, yeah, you do. Okay. I only know because I'm a guy. 8, no, family life is going to be unfair. You're going to have to grade on a curve with these kids because they aren't going to measure up compared to their siblings. You're going to feel like you are letting them get away with things. I know that. And sometimes you are because you don't want to murder your child. And you know what I mean by that. There were times where I would look at my son and say, huh, you were almost respectful to me right then, so I think I'll engage. It was just because he's a very direct kid, and it just didn't sound the way that a child should talk to his dad, but there wasn't usually anything disrespectful. It was just he was like, "Just take charge and blunt." And you have to wrestle with this. When I remember one time I'd send Casey a text before an event. We used to do a ton of live events telling about an alternative approach I wanted to take that night. And when I came into the event, he headed right for me and said directly, "No, we're not doing that." And inside I was like, "I am your father and I am your boss. Who are you to talk to me like that?" But I realized this is a kid with strong opinions and a direct manner. His intentions were good, even if his tone wasn't. So I engaged and we talked it out. And the little jerk was right. Look, I just actually got back from a big hike with him. He's been that way since he was born. He's a grown man. He is an amazing human being. And he's awesome, but it's just the way they're made. Okay, if the other kids say in your family, "Well, it's not fair how you treat our strong-willed sibling," you could remind them of this. You could say, "Oh, you want to talk fairness? Oh, let's do it. You know what isn't fair? It's not fair that you were made with a brain and constitution that makes it easier for you to get good grades in school, to do your homework quickly, to make friends pretty easily and do sleepovers, to be generally likable. And yet your brother's brain is wired in such a way that he has to work 5 times harder than you just to sit still all day, memorize information for a test, and do homework. It's not fair that it's harder for him to connect with kids his own age. Ever notice how difficult life is for him? Would you want to walk in his shoes or trade places with him? I don't think so. So instead of talking fairness, why don't we talk about gratitude, you little snot? I'm kidding, leave off the last part, but it feels very gratifying sometimes. By the way, you better be nice to your brother because one day you'll probably be working for him when he starts his own business and rules the world. So you can leave out the last parts. But you've got to accept the fact that these kids are tough, but this is the way they are. Number 9, that's because you have to understand the arc of their lives. Strong willed kids feel like they are swimming upstream. Childhood just doesn't suit them. You said before, if we can just get this child to adulthood, he's going to be fine. Strong willed kids face adversity from the time they begin preschool, usually, and it doesn't let up. Navigating childhood does not come easy for them, so it's almost like they get most of their difficulties out of the way as kids. Now, here's the beneficial part. By the time they're 26, they're so accustomed to adversity, they can handle real life. Whereas your compliant child who's sailed through childhood will wilt like a flower after getting fired from their first job. But the strong willed child will say, look, I've had everybody against me since birth. Bring it. Note as well that this adversity forces them to create different coping mechanisms and workarounds that often give them a competitive advantage later in life, almost like kids from rough backgrounds developing street smarts to get them by. Number 10, your strong-willed child is not going to progress on your timeline according to artificial societal standards. You cannot compare them to siblings or peers. Many of them are late bloomers, so they may need a gap year or two before going to college or figuring out their life plan. Be patient, don't force it. Look, I begged them, go to community college for the first 2 years, right? Who needs the prestigious bumper sticker when yours says, my daughter saved me $50,000 by going to community college and I took a trip around the world? Look, there isn't a right college for your child most of the time. It's better if they take it slowly and get a success first before transferring to a better college. But I'm going to encourage you, be patient. Throw out all those artificial timelines. Oh, by this age, your child should be doing this. No, they shouldn't. Know your child and remember these 3 things. Relationships. It is the relationship and internal motivation are way more effective than consequences. The traits that irritate you now are the very traits that you will appreciate when they are grown. And they're very traits that will make them wildly successful in the real world. We watch this with our kids. And finally, enjoy them. enjoy your kids. I'd encourage you, if you have our programs on app, go through them this summer so you are prepared for the stress of the next school year. Let your kids listen, have amazing conversations with them about this. I'd actually let some of your kids listen to this particular episode and say, hey, there are 10 things in here. Which of them do you want to tell us about? Which one of those resonated with us? Which ones do we really need to work on? That would be an awesome conversation, and your kids would feel very understood. So I didn't really plan that, but I would let them listen to this and see if they say, that's me. That's how I'm made. So instead of everybody in their life trying to change them, they finally feel understood and know they've got a great future ahead of them. Look, if any of you strong-willed kids are listening, I would buy stock in you. You have a great future ahead of you. You are made for the world we live in because you have that energy and your ingenuity and that entrepreneurial spirit. Oh, I like that stuff. All right. Love you all. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.